Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to this afternoon's webinar about engaging with our K through grade 6 students in a virtual environment. So we're going to be looking at a few different things today, but rest assured everything has been documented for you in some how-to slides and resources available today. You will see on your screen in front of you there is a bit.ly for the January 27th underscore K6 for you to reference in advance of waiting for them to be posted. So if you do want those resource slides available to you sooner than later, this is a way to get them. Keep in mind that when we do a Zoom share, any of the links that you see in front of you, they're not live links because it's a shared screen. So you would have to copy the link down and then open it up in a browser yourself. That said, I would encourage you to maybe make note of the bit.ly so you have access to it, and then just sit back and watch the presentation today, as we're going to go through a lot of information, but hopefully it'll give you lots of ideas for things you can do with your K through 6 students. So just in the interest of time, we'll just jump right into this here. My name is Heather Ryan. I'm a customer success specialist and VLE consultant at D2L. VLE standing for Virtual Learning Environment. I have been with D2L for the last few years, but prior to that, I was um, a teacher myself. I worked for 11 years internationally in Seoul, South Korea, and in that time, I worked primarily in in the elementary school panel. Um, Actually, before we continue on, I am just going to put a little note out there. You may hear some animals in the background. I've just recently brought home a puppy and he's having an afternoon. So you may hear some barking, and excuse me in advance if you do. Again, my background comes from 11 years teaching in the primary panel. In my last 6 years that I was a teacher, I was teaching grades 4 and 5, but I had 4 years instructing or teaching kindergarten all the way through to 5th grade. So I can certainly connect to the use cases here around elementary, of course. And then in my time at D2L, I've been working primarily with our kindergarten through grade 12 clients across North America, but I do spend a lot of my focus here in Ontario, which is where D2L is located. Just a couple things. Although it says that they're disabled here, I do realize that they're on. I meant to update that before I launched the webinar this afternoon, but it slipped my mind. Today I will be addressing quite a bit of information, and there may be some questions that do come up. If they do go into the question and answer pod, I will try to address them. However, based on the numbers of people in participation today, I may not be able to get to them. So what we would ask that you do is utilize this email address that you're seeing there, k12ont@d2l.com, to kind of congregate or correlate your questions into an email and send them off there. We have a team that will happily answer them for you. The recording and the slide deck will be available on the educator webinar for your reference, probably sometime next week for access to that. But if you do want the slides today for your reference, the bit.ly for the slides is there. And again, these are not live links, so you can't click on them. You'd have to make note of the bit.ly and then open it up in your browser, because this is a Zoom screen share, so they're not live links. Today, we're going to be looking at quite a few different things, actually. We're going to talk a lot about how you can use Activity Feed as a form of communication to support both families and students at home in virtual learning. We're going to look at how announcements can be used to present content and activities to students, and both digestible content as well as functional for even our youngest learners. I'm going to have a quick highlight of Brightspace Portfolio, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the use of Bitmoji classrooms and custom widgets to be able to communicate content directly and activities directly with your students. A lot of the information today is going to be just looking at a sample that's been created inside a course, and how it can be used, and kind of talking through those pieces and those use cases. Because again, with the K through 6, although there's a lot of commonality there, we do know that our K to 2 or K to 3 groups have a little bit different needs than our upper elementary. So I'm going to be trying to highlight some of those for you to differentiate what the the possible uses to make sure that everything is kind of applies across the board here for those that are participating. So a lot of times we get asked and we talk about what we can do in our classrooms versus what we now have to do in a virtual environment. And I always kind of like to connect traditional teacher tools or face-to-face classroom tools with the virtual tools and for things that can be used here. So I like to connect to things like agendas to activity feed, bulletin boards to our announcements tool, and then our files and files of work to portfolio. So the reason I like to connect these here is that they have different uses and different capacities. So when I think about activity feed itself, and I think about it being like the new agenda, in an agenda, I would write quick, short messages. I would be communicating home with my parents and my families or my guardians, whether it's a record of homework or reminders, some of those real-time communications. And I wouldn't be reusing those communications year to year with my different classes as I taught forward. They're meant to be real time, quick blast kind of information, which is what activity feed allows you to do. It allows you to share your details in a message. It allows you to create quick on the go activities in the assignments connection as well. But it lets you to connect and share that information really quickly in a social media inspired or style, I guess is what I'll put it as. But it also lets you kind of, as an educator, plan forward and schedule those posts so you can post them later as you need. So for me, what I would like as an educator, I was always planned quite far ahead in my traditional teacher planning binder, and this would allow me to make those communications kind of scheduled in advance for my families at home. When think about announcements, I think of announcements as being a new bulletin board. So announcements, very similar to Activity Feed, is a communication tool that we have inside Brightspace. But what announcements does is it allows us to do a few different things that are a little bit more robust, if you will, than the Activity Feed feature. And this is why I like to kind of connect this one to the bulletin board, because what it does is it allows us to create features and information to share with our students and families, but that we can actually carry forward from year to year. So I know when I was an educator, I had manila envelopes after manila envelopes full of pieces to hang up on my bulletin boards, depending on the theme or the lesson I was working on that week or that month. But I would use them year to year. And announcements allows you to do that. So if you spend the time creating a really dynamic announcement, you can copy that component to be reusing it in your future courses. But announcements also goes that next level where it allows us to take our information that we're sharing to that multimedia level. And I love this for when we're working with our students that are maybe early readers or non-readers even at this point, because we're able to do things like add videos, create our own videos, embed videos from places like YouTube. We can use pictures and different links and abilities to kind of reach all those learners and empower them to be able to do the work themselves, because that's certainly one of the things that we often hear from our K-6 educators and parents is that if it's something is super text-based, it can be very difficult or challenging for our early learners. When we move forward here, we look at the portfolio as our filing cabinet. So we know that in our classrooms, our face-to-face classrooms, we have probably files or even paper portfolios. But most likely we have files of various assessment examples and documentation that we can use for that purpose of assessment and evidence of learning. And portfolio allows us to collect that with our students. The best thing about portfolio, especially in current environment, is that it has actually been developed so that it empowers the students to create their own portfolios themselves, which means that they're able to use the tools at home to be able to document their learning and then share it back with educators, which is fantastic because it opens up a whole new kind of level in our virtual education or our virtual instruction, because now we don't actually just have to have our students maybe sitting in a synchronous environment or at their desk for some kind of a virtual meeting. Our students can be empowered to work on their tasks and share them with us as they can. And any of you that have joined me today that are parents, I'm sure that you're kind of equally struggling with how do I get my students' work and to-do list done, as well as make sure that my kids are getting their work and their to-do list done as well. So the portfolio allows for a little bit of empowerment and allows our students to work on that themselves and submit it, which is fantastic. And it is a tool that is scaffolded and designed to work with our students from different levels and different abilities. So in the picture here, you see both a laptop version of the workspace, which is the web version, where we can do our editing and our evaluations and assessments as an educator, which I will be showing you today is the web version. But here we see that on the tablet, we see this is our Funster mode, and Funster mode is a app is one of the versions of the app that is actually geared towards and was developed for our youngest learners. So it was actually developed and tested working with a group of junior kindergarten students from Waterloo Catholic District School Board here in Ontario, and they came in and were our little mini test subjects to see how the app worked for them. And it was designed with those youngest learners in line. It's an audio driven guided workflow, so even if our students aren't reading yet, they can still actually participate and do the work with themselves to be able to do that. Okay, so just moving forward here, we're going to have a look at the environment. This actually might be one of the last times you see the Bitly here. So for those of you that maybe joined late or hadn't seen this yet, the Bitly is there to access the slide deck. And at the end of the slide deck, there's quite a few slides to support our educators and some of the tasks that I'm going to be showing you today. It is not a live link, so you just need to write it down and open it up in your browser to access the slides. The recording and the slides, though, will be available next week on the educator website. So I'm just going to go ahead here and pull up my workspace. So when I first log into Brightspace or D2L, depending on what the common term is that your school board or school district uses, you will land on your organization's homepage, which is where I am here today. So yours will look a little different, and that's because the customizations of Brightspace are varying from board to board and district to district. So it may look different. So you may see your own individual board's logo here, for example, and the design and layout may be slightly different, but all the components are generally the same. So for me to find my courses as an educator, I have my courses widget here. Well, all my courses are available. However, if you don't have the My Courses widget and you're not sure where to look for it, you just use this little waffle that's up here where it says select a course, and there's a search feature in there for you to be able to locate your course information. So if it's the first time you're looking for it, that would probably be the easiest way to find it. However, if you do have the My Courses widget, you would see any of the courses that you were enrolled in showing there for you. I'm going to click into Brightspace Classroom, and it's going to take me to my main page from my classroom today. And once again, you're going to notice that there's some differences even between my organization homepage. So I'll go back to that there. So just so we can note a few of those things. For example, you'll notice the nav bar on here is word-based list view. The picture is different, and of course the banner text here is different as well. And you'll notice that it's a lot more text heavy here than my Brightspace Classroom is. So when I click into Brightspace Classroom, just keeping in mind those differences, and we'll notice a few things that I've already done in here to really make this a little bit more appealing setup-wise for my elementary school students. So what I've done is I've actually used in my nav bar the icon-based option, which is something that you can change by going to the 3 ellipses here. So anytime you see the 3 ellipses throughout the platform, it just means that there's some editing settings that are there that you can click into. So if I click into here, my ellipsis for actions for navbar, I'm going to choose edit this navbar to open it up. And just to show you, here are the picture-based icons that I have available on my navbar, and I can change those and update those and add different links here and customizations by doing that. So for example, if you wanted to add a customized link from maybe you actively use let me try to think, epic books, for example, and you wanted your students to be reading that and you wanted it to be really easy for them, you can create a custom link here that'll be something that is specific to your class for you. It's not a Brightspace tool, basically. But you can scroll through here and you can see all the different tools that are available and the items that have been created for you, and you can add those into your nav bar if you want to. You can also rearrange the order of your nav bar tools so that it appears differently in your list, and that's just a drag and drop action there. But here's where you get the icon based versus the list view. So if I want the icon base, I just need to choose that and make sure that I save it and I close it so that that's available to me as my view for my students. There are some other options there, but for the most part, this is the most significant piece, is getting the links that you want in the order you want, and how many you want to be displayed as well. So you can also take links out here if that was something that you didn't want to have available. So maybe you're a kindergarten teacher and you have no intention of using the quizzes tool for evaluation. You can choose that X and click that out and it'll remove it from your navigation bar so it won't be visible to your students, which creates a little bit more of a streamlined experience for them and certainly makes it a lot less visually takes away from the distraction, the visual distractions for our students. So I'm just going to save and close that there and bring that back up to my homepage. Next, we're going to look at the banner here. So of course, we want to make sure that our environment is as welcoming as possible. So maybe here I have all these different colors. A lot of the theme of my unit this week is dinosaurs, for example. So maybe I want to see if there are any dinosaur images here. Nope, none. Okay, I'm also looking at animals, so I can search that there. There we go. So maybe I want to add a picture that's a little bit more suiting for what I'm working with my students on this week. So we'll just use this giraffe image here, click on that, and you'll see that now that is getting updated. I don't really like that, so I'm going to change it back here. Let's go back to colors. Again, if there's something that you don't find and you want to upload your own image, you can certainly go ahead and do that there so that it'll bring up an image that'll work that's better for you. So I went with crayons because one of the things I'm going to show you today is about art. So we'll add that there as well. You can also change the text that's here to make it more engaging for your students, and you can customize that banner text right here. So you can change it to say whatever you want. Welcome to our classroom. Are you a Leafs fan? Whatever it is that might engage with your students. It's Robert Munch week. I'm going to show you that there's a theme kind of going on. You can tell that I'm a theme teacher. I like things by the week. But here at the end, what we see with the bracket first name is this something that's called replace strings, and replace strings just gives us the ability to make it a little bit more personal. So with the replace string here, it's simple. We'll just change this. I am glad to see you today, comma, and then it's curly bracket, first name, all one word, curly bracket, and then I'll put my punctuation there at the end. And what that replace string does is it pulls in the first name of anybody who's logging into the course and makes it personal for them. So I'm glad to see you today. I'm logged in as Heather Ryan. Of course, it pulls my name here. If I was logged in as Jimi Hendrix, it would say, I'm glad to see you today, Jimmy, and that would be the name. So it pulls in the first name of whomever's logged in. So then as we scroll down here, this is where I want to start showing you some of the exciting things that we can do. So we're going to skip over the first two here, and we're going to come over here to activity feed. And what you see here is an activity feed post that I've created for my students. And my families at home. And again, I like to think of activity feed as being your agenda for the day, your notes home to families and guardians. Activity feed, it will allow you to do some very basic editing and create communication that can be directed home to families. And if your organization, school district, or school board is using Brightspace for Parents, activity feed also feeds all posts directly to Brightspace for Parents, which means that parents don't have to log in side by side with their students to find out what they're doing for the day. Those blasts go directly to that service for parents. If your board if your school board or school district isn't using Brightspace for parents, you can reach out to your Brightspace administrator to inquire about that. But Activity Feed continues to just be still a valuable tool outside of Brightspace for parents. So what you see here is that as an educator, I've created a really quick blast here for my parents. One of the reasons I keep referencing Activity Feed as being a blast for parents is because it is text driven, and it's a great way for us to put that to-do list of what's expected for the day straight through to parents. What I like to do is kind of encourage when I'm imagining upskilling my parents and bringing them on board is that letting them know that this is where I'll be posting the daily tasks for the day and linking any of the information that they may need to make sure that their student is successful. And the reason we need to consider that as being a connection with our families and our community communication center is because our K our elementary school students may, especially the early learners, may not be reading yet, and they're going to be needing some guidance from their parents. So this puts everything in one spot for our parents, which as educators, I'm sure you've heard, too many kind of platforms is too confusing and too difficult. So everything's here for my student or for my parents to reference. And if I organize it in a way that they're able to follow along, then they know exactly what's happening there for their students. Additionally, here at the end, you can see that I've added in my class meeting for the day. So I've been able to do that, and I can link that directly into the activity feed post so that it's right there, handy for my parents to grab, or my guardians to grab, my families at home to grab, so that they can open it and be ready to participate in that meeting. Adding an activity feed post is really easy. You click on that blue button, you press message, and it'll open it up for you. When you are using it, you have the basic HTML editor, so your simple edit text functions, some bullet points, and a few emojis. So it just keeps it nice and simple and clean. Here's where you're able to attach items. So you can upload a file if you wanted. You could attach a web link if you were referring your students to something like that. You can bring in from your Google Drive or your OneDrive as well. And here's where the magic happens as far as really streamlining things for parents. Here's where I can link any of those existing activities that I've created right from any of those other tools in the platform right into the activity feed. So if I've created a checklist for my students, for example, I can put that right in there for reference for my parents so that it's quick linked into that post. So activity feed works really well for communications with families and guardians at home. The next piece I wanted to show is the ability of our announcements tool to really create a dynamic and engaging space for our students. And what you can see here is that I've built a daily movement activity here in my announcements tool, where I have my instructions coming through in a video. So my students are able to click into this and watch a video. Hey guys, where I can give them the instructions verbally. They're not needing to read any information. They can follow along. They get that details. They see my face. I can engage with them in a way that doesn't require them to be reading. As I scroll down here, I do have some instructions there. It's totally up to you whether or not you include them. I brought in a video a visual here. So this could be a photograph. This could be an infograph like this is. You can import all of those things. And then here I've actually gone ahead and also embedded a yoga video for them to be able to watch. And I can even quick link information here at the end too. So announcements is a really dynamic tool that allows us to communicate kind of on that next level of posting for our students. And we can do that by going into the announcements tool and creating a new announcement there. I can also go into my current announcement and I can edit it and change it as I need to. When you go into the announcements, you'll notice that in the content tool, you see our full HTML editor that lets us do all of these different editing features. But the three that I want to call out here are our insert stuff button, which allows me to give that video note and bring that in, and also has my YouTube picker. So if there's videos on YouTube that you want to bring in, you can use that there. Or the other piece is always if you have items already on your computer or in your Google, or in your, you have links or embed codes you want to add in, those are going to be helpful there as well. Here's where you can add in your image pictures, and then this is your quick link option for those previously created materials if you wanted to add those in, or if you're adding in your Google assignments, or even I know it's very valuable as far as the content for your synchronous learning, any of those meetings that you might be creating with Google Meet, MS Teams, or virtual classrooms, or Bongo. Those are right there for you to be able to create and embed directly into your source as well. So it can create that really dynamic, interactive, and it doesn't have to be a text-based communication. So I like to encourage the activity feed and the announcements as best practice to be utilized together, because I think that activity feed is a text-based version that communicates directly with the kind of the parent or the guardian that's assisting. But the announcements tool can really be done to create an instruction that allows our students to work through that content themselves. A few other options here with regards to being able to communicate with our students are Brightspace, or sorry, our Bitmoji classrooms. So I have two different Bitmoji classrooms that are created here. I have one that's created to be my to-do list for the day. So it gives the date, and then it has the activities that are created here. So I've created a Bitmoji using the Bitmoji app of myself, and I've been able, you can change, so you can change the poses and the way that your educator or you look in your image, and you can create this to the classroom to look exactly like a classroom might, a student experiences face to face. Or here, this is my library. So you can create it to be as effective, or as close to your classroom as you want. But I've also seen educators doing really interesting things. So I've seen where they've created their Bitmoji classroom and designed it to look like a bulletin board with Post-its and things tacked to it, which I thought was really interesting and really cool, especially if they did themed ones. But I've also seen them where they've created like adventure stories. So it looks like the student is going, while they're going through their tasks of 1 through 5, it's like they're climbing their way to a castle, for example, or they're on a pirate ship. One of the coolest things about Bitmoji Classrooms is our ability to link different pieces of different learning and links to our classroom. So I've gone ahead and linked in my activities. Number one is a Bill Nye the Science Guy about dinosaurs video. Number two links me to one of my Brightspace classroom assignments. So now it wants me to go into a content piece, and it's going to take me directly to that work. So there's that piece of my learning, my vocabulary as a student. So that Brightspace classroom can really become this visual to-do list for our students, and they can click through it and not get lost. And there's um, no instructions that have to be followed that are typed out. Once they understand that this is their to-do list for the day, then they can engage with this activities by themselves. And anything that you're bringing in, any of the images that you're bringing in, they can have different things connected to them as well. Really cool way to engage with our students in that to-do list kind of activity, and it can be changed every day. Fun fact is, when it is live and you change it inside your Google slide, it does update live. So earlier today, I had to change the date here so that it was reading as today's date as opposed to yesterday's. And it's just a matter of changing it on the slide, hitting refresh, and it updates in a live fashion. So that's a great piece for you to know, and it's a huge time saver. It doesn't have to be recreated day to day. In the same regard, what I've done is I've created a virtual learning or a virtual library. And here, what I've done is I've put up some of the books that I'm interested in maybe reading as an educator or recommending. But also over here, I've linked in my Robert Munsch week. I hope we have some Robert Munsch fans in the audience. And if you didn't know, Robert Munsch records a lot of his books live and provides those audio recordings for free on his website, which is what I've linked to here. So I've linked directly to his audiobooks that are available for available for my students to listen to now. And so I've created a little audio library for them here that they can engage with when they see fit. So it's that independent learning that allows them to do that. And I've live linked all of those pieces in there. Now, I know you're thinking, oh my goodness, Heather, how did you create that? Don't worry. In the slide deck at the end, there's a whole list of information for you for how to create that, and a really step-by-step, easy to do, as well as the webinar that I did about a week ago with that visual for you as well. And then the final piece here that I thought I would throw in to my Brightspace classroom is the idea of a choice board. And I love choice boards for distance learning because I feel like it gives our students the opportunity to explore things on their own at home, but still gives them that educational drive. And I think that it's a great way for us to kind of help parents with a little bit of flexibility for them to be able to still be doing tasks and have all kinds of ideas, but maybe not necessarily having to do them between that like 9 and 3 period where the parents might be educators or the parents and guardians might be having to work themselves. So I love the idea of like a weekly choice board being put in there with the idea that my students maybe are empowered to choose 1 or 2 or 3 of those items, and then putting and posting their finished work into their portfolio, which allows us to, as educators, to see that information that's coming through to my student from my students as documentation of learning. So it's things that I can see and that I become a visual piece for my assessment. So I'm just going to show you that little interface here, but we can see that everything that was brought in by the student as their evidence of learning, documentation of learning is that I can see here. And if I click on it and I open it, there's areas for me to add feedback, to do some expectation evaluation, even to add a rubric if I wanted to, if I was doing that for an evaluation piece. Again, this is very much meant to just kind of trigger your thinking and how and what you could do with Brightspace, with the understanding that inside this, inside our slide deck here, we have quite a few options for you to be able to explore the details. So, for example, here is the how-to features for activity feed with some directed flow here. And if you go all the way to the end of our deck, you'll find the, oh, sorry about that. I just realized it popped out of my show or my slides and presentation there. But here you'll see access. This is the access to the link for the webinar. So if you just click on that, you'll be able to view it. And then if you want the webinar how-to slides, they're going to be their quick link there for you as well. Because I think Bitmoji is a very popular tool that our elementary school teachers are looking to use right now. So I just wanted to make sure that you did have the confidence in that I had made sure that all of your slides information are there for you so that you'll be able to work through the different tools and whatnot yourselves. So with that being said, this is kind of a jumbled up little finish to my presentation. I'm sorry about that, but I would just like to thank you for joining me today. I appreciate the time that you took to be here with me. Again, there's the reference for the bit.ly if you do want access to these slides in advance of receiving them on the website like at a next week sometime. You can grab that there. And again, I appreciate your patience with me today as I'm wrapping this up and bumbling through it a little bit. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon. And if you are joining my colleague Bridget for awards and gamification, you're a couple minutes late, but I hope you enjoy the presentation with her as well. So once again, thank you for being here. Keep up the hard work. We love the way you teach. And we hope that presentation today was inspiring and you got some great ideas to take away from it. Please don't hesitate to reach out and use the email address k12ont@d2l.com if you have any questions, or you can always connect with me on Twitter at HS Ryan, or sorry, at Heather S. Ryan as my handle. Have a great day, everybody, and thanks again for joining me. Bye-bye.